Thank you. So that was immigration, and I know some of you already touched upon this topic, but we're moving on to anti-Asian violence. And I don't know if you can see behind you is actually right there, everything that I'm talking about here. So as I had previously mentioned, there is a very large Asian population here that resides in the district if you are elected. And according to the COVID-19 Community Health Resources and Needs Assessment Report conducted by the NYU Center for the Study of Asian American Health, CACF, and CPC, they found that 78% of those surveyed feared their safety because of racism or discrimination related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, I know personally that when I am walking around, I actually think about my routes and where I park my car and what subway, if I need to take a subway. It's something that I never have had to think about until, the last couple of years. So what are some of the non-carceral and holistic approaches that you think are needed to address anti-Asian violence? And also, what is your position, and some of you I think already mentioned this, on the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act? So to change it up a bit, I'm going to start in the middle now, and Carlina, you are first.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. And I just want to acknowledge your comments because I don't want anyone to feel unsafe in their own community, in their own city, when they're walking. And thank you for sharing your comment because that is incredibly serious. So non-carceral solutions, of course, it's investing in our communities. The safest communities are the ones that are invested in. There is no question. You can see the difference in Manhattan and in Brooklyn alone with communities that are just even a few blocks away from each other and what people experience. So programming and services is incredibly important. That's investing in our youth, making sure community centers are open late. That's investing in workforce development training. That's making sure that people have the social services that they need, because that in our infrastructure is crumbling, because we also have to upgrade our subway systems to make sure that they feel safe for people who have to commute and go home. We also need small business support. We know we feel safer in communities when small businesses are open and the gates are rolled up. And many of our communities in our Brooklyn and Manhattan Chinatowns are closing early because many of the employees do not even feel safe on their commute home. There has to be a comprehensive, multi-pronged investment in our communities, and I support legislation that would ensure that we are addressing those systems, those communities that have been disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Even before this happened, I was going to vigils for community members who were experiencing anti-Asian hate and who were victims to tragic violence, and that cannot continue.
So a non-carceral solution is going to take creativity. Thankfully, I've thought of this. My federal oversight bill of the homeless shelters, which I think we can all admit contribute to the violence on the streets, will help this, because right now you have 80% of the homeless population that would never hurt a fly. You have 20%, and this is not me speaking, these are experts, psychiatrists, it's a consensus at this point. 20% that are severely mentally ill or heavily drug addicted. And the homeless shelters will take in those even involved in the criminal justice system already without any questions. So these neighborhood attacks that we've seen, including the really tragic one with Christina Unit, these are the things that we can prevent by having a physician on staff to make sure that those who are part of the criminal justice system are analyzed to make sure that dangerousness is accounted for and they're sent to a facility if need be.
So, it's my turn. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to say that, first and foremost, we have all experienced so much anti-Asian hate and violence. So Ernabelle, thank you for sharing what you shared, but this is also my experience, and I think that, what we need to do is, really kind of dismantle a lot of that thinking about who belongs and who doesn't. And I think that that's really where it stems, right? A lot of the anti-Asian hate that we are experiencing in this country, yes, Donald Trump exacerbated, yes, congressional members exacerbated. Yes, we've heard this rhetoric before, but the fact of the matter is we have state-sanctioned racism. It's embedded into our every single piece of legislation. The fact of the matter is, you know, from the Chinese Exclusion Act to the Japanese internment, we are seeing basically what's happening as a result of our country's history. And I think that it's so important for us to make sure that we are dismantling piece by piece that hatred. And so that's coming with investing in our communities, making sure that we have the dollars that we were able to bring on the state level, for example, the 30 million, but we have to also make sure that we're continuing to fund our communities in a way that is actually impactful. I also wanted to mention that I did not get to say that, you know, I'm actually helping to, right now, you know, try to make sure that ICE is in the courthouse. We didn't actually get to, I'm so sorry, there were so many topics on that other question.
Don't worry, there's plenty of stuff happening.
Yes, and I'm also trying to eliminate ICE, and I think that, you know, that's also making it so that certain people feel like they can't belong, and we have to make sure to end the model minority myth and the perpetual foreigner syndrome. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a really important one. I have to say that although I'm not Asian, I am Jewish, and I was beaten up on the way to Hebrew school as a child. We have to confront the fact, or we have to admit, that as a country, and in this respect I agree with what you said, that as a country we have had discrimination as part of the structure, whether we're talking about racial discrimination, slavery, or whether we're talking about Exclusion Act, or whether we're talking about the demonization of foreigners, whether we're talking, we have a schizophrenic attitude towards foreigners. On the one hand, we say we're a country of immigrants, and on the other hand, if you look at our immigration laws, we're fighting them all the time. Now, I haven't had a chance to deal with ICE because I wasn't in Congress at this time, but I can tell you that as a member of the Homeland Security Advisory Council, one of the things I fought against was the private prisons that demean and mistreat prisoners. I also was concerned about issues of corruption in the Border Patrol. I am not afraid to take on any government agency that misbehaves or abuses its power, but we have to accept and acknowledge the discrimination that too long has persisted and fight it. And education is a big part of it. Now they're going to try to stop us from teaching about the mistakes of the past. And we won't even be able to talk about the Exclusion Act. And we won't be able to talk about the Japanese internment. And that's, it seems to me, a huge danger because we can't accept it, we don't acknowledge it, we can't deal with it.
Thank you. I think number one, I agree with many of my colleagues here. Obviously, it's investing in communities. We need tremendous amount of public education. And we need public education that will combat these myths in the general public because people don't even realize how much they have been affected and their lives have been affected and how much they perpetuate systemic racism at every step of the way. And whether that is anti-Asian violence or anti-Black violence, the United States is inherently a racist country. We need to pay people better so that we need to ensure that when we're paying people for the work that they do, that we stop undervaluing the work of immigrants, undervaluing the work of people of color, and undervaluing the work of women. And we can do so much of that by working in coalition with our community-based organizations to ensure that they are part of the solution. If we empower their voices, we will make headway in this fight.